down. That was loud, y'all. What's up? Hello, everybody. I hope all is well today. Happy Monday. Let me make sure I have everything running the way that it should be. I don't know why my Instagram always runs at poor connection. Very weird, but hopefully we can get it going here. But I hope all is well, y'all. Today we're talking about embracing change. That was top of our poll today. So that's exciting. I have a few things to talk through. So hopefully this is helpful today. Yeah, my Instagram is acting weird. And I don't know why it's doing that. Let's see. We'll try one more time. If not, hey, Instagram folks, y'all just have to come on over to YouTube. Let's see if this works. We'll see, y'all. We'll see if it works. We'll see if it works. Yeah, I don't know. It's giving me issues. Hopefully that keeps working. I hope all is well, y'all. Today we're talking about embracing change. So I'm really excited to talk through these things because I feel like once we get to like the end of the year, it's always that time of year where we start reflecting, we start figuring stuff out for the next year. I'm already thinking about 2025. Yeah, I don't know why Instagram isn't working. Hi, Soul Care. I don't know if you're able to hear me, but it keeps giving me bad connection. So if you keep getting bad connection on your side, just head over to Instagram because for some reason it's not working. And I don't know if you can hear me, but head over to YouTube. But perfect. Okay, so when it comes to navigating and embracing change, there's a few things I want to mention. Hey, Hiru, welcome in. So there's a few things that I want to mention about that, and then there are about 6 affirmations that I'll share. And actually one journal prompt for you to walk away from today's conversation. So feel free to take any notes that you want to take, write down the affirmations that you want to write down. If this is your first time, my name is Debbie. I'm a certified mindfulness coach. If you have not been privy to my channel, everything on this channel is all things mindfulness. As well as meditation. So feel free to check out some of the videos. But this is really our live just to kind of talk through different mindfulness topics. So tonight is about embracing change. I have 4 points that I want to share, and then we can go into the affirmations. So now what is happening in the chat, y'all? Okay. All right. When it comes to embracing change, now for me, the way that I personally embrace change is just like an understanding that all things happen for a reason. I just believe that, when change is happening, is either something I need to grow from, something I need some type of revision in, or some form of protection. So that's kind of like what I personally believe in change, and that mindset has helped me to navigate it with resilience, as well as with acceptance and with patience and with self-compassion. So that's just me personally, but when it comes to mindfulness in general, There's several things that you want to keep in mind when it comes to embracing change. So, number one is to acknowledge and accept your emotions. So, a lot of times when it comes to embracing change, we have difficulty doing so because of the fact that we are in the state of denial or avoidance. And that state tends to prolong the process of change, or it ends up postponing change as well. And when we're not changing, we're not evolving, we're not growing, we're stagnant. And then we end up in states of burnout or depression or just resentment. There's so many things that can that can happen when it comes to not embracing change. So the first step is to understand and acknowledge and accept the emotion surrounding whatever we're navigating when it comes to change, whether that be change in our profession, change in our personal lives, change internally when it comes to just growing older, change with other people and other individuals, and them either growing older or evolving and changing. So this is more so a focus on change that we cannot control. Now, ultimately, there are some things that happen where you're like, okay, I can do this, and this can bring me back to where I was. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those things that are situations, or especially people, those situations of change that we're not able to control, that we have to embrace. Those things that we find ourselves in situations, whether it be with work, and there's things evolving and changing at work, and you have to do additional training, or you have to switch to a different team, or you have a different manager, or those are the things that you can't technically change. So this is the change that I'm talking about. So first, acknowledge and accept your emotions. Be patient with yourself and your emotions. Show yourself compassion, but definitely acknowledge them and allow yourself to process them and feel them and accept those emotions as they are. So that's point number one. Point number two is awareness of your attachments. So not just awareness of your emotions, but also being aware of your attachments. What is attached to this thing or situation or person that is making you resistant to change? And really get an understanding of that. Get an understanding and reflect on what that is, as well as the why. Ask yourself why until you can't ask yourself why anymore, just to kind of get more of an understanding as to, is it the change, or is it an aspect of the change? What is it about this change that I'm having a hard time grasping? It may be a conscious or unconscious thing. It may be something that you really have to think through and understand and journal on. But having the awareness of what you're actually attached to will help you to process that and let whatever that thing is go. So that way you're able to embrace the change that's coming to you. It also gives you the space to explore any false narratives that you may have told yourself, and maybe those false narratives is what you're attaching yourself to. For example, like if you whether it be a person or a friend, and this person is no longer in your life, and you're trying to understand or grasp the reason why. And a lot of times when it comes to people, it's hard for us to let them go because of the fact that we had this false narrative or a narrative in our minds on how this relationship was supposed to be. And because we're holding out hope on that narrative that we had put in our mind or put in our brain, that's why it's hard for us to embrace the change. It's basically us not being able to see the reality of what's happening. We're holding on to whatever fantasy we had in regards to this particular person. And it can be as simple as a friendship where you thought you were going to be best friends forever, and it just didn't work out that way, and you have to let that ideal go, as far as like, oh, like this, maybe it wasn't supposed to be a forever thing. Maybe this was supposed to be only a season or a period of time where this person was supposed to be in my life. But a lot of times it's hard for us to let go of individuals or situations because we had different expectations. And that's not a bad thing. Like, you could have expectations of relationships or situations. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's hard for us to let go because it's hard for us to accept that that narrative that we had in our mind is not a reality. So being aware of your emotions, but also being aware of your attachments. Okay. So that is point number 2. Point number 3. Just a second here. I think I have a few people on Instagram looking for me. I'm gonna send some people over to YouTube. Just a second. So point number 3. Point number 3 is be curious about the change. So what can you learn? What are the new possibilities? Like, asking yourself those questions is extremely important to get yourself more comfortable with the fact that this is a change that's happening. Just a second here. Sorry for the interruption, y'all. Okay. So, yes, be curious about the change. So what can I learn? What are the new possibilities? Address concerns of uncertainty. Address any of those areas and be curious about those areas, so that way it's easier for you to embrace what's happening. Okay. So a lot of the times it's not about the change itself, but it's about the process, right? So it's about you being more frustrated or more concerned about the actual process itself versus the actual change. So it goes back to, the attachment and accepting your emotions, but also understanding and being curious about the change and really seeing where you are the most uncertain, where you are the most frustrated, where the fear lies. Because a lot of times it's not even about the actual thing itself changing. It's more so of the process of that. Because of the fact that a lot of times with change, you're going to see things get worse before they get better. And sometimes going through that process is the fear. Going through that process is the frustration. So just understanding that there's so many pieces to the change, to the point where you want to pinpoint what you're actually concerned about, what you're actually frustrated about, what you're actually fearful of, and addressing that thing. Because a lot of times we address these changes as one big overwhelming situation or thing that we're trying to accomplish, and we instantly think this big thing is horrible. It's something I don't want to go through. It's not a process I want to go through. And really, it's just one piece of it, So pinpointing what that is and taking the time to say, okay, it's not even just the fact that I have this change. It's more so of this piece. Just like, for example, if you lose your job, right? If you you may not even like the job, for real. Like, if you really think about it, there may have been some aspects of your job that you're like, I really want to do something else anyway. But because of whatever situation that you're in, maybe it was just too much for you to try to do it all at one time, as far as like finding a job and working a job. Maybe it was, you weren't quite sure where you wanted to go, or you didn't have the time to really explore it. And so when it comes to, if you lose a job, yes, it's detrimental. It's something that is traumatic at times, and even trying to figure it out. But if you really, really think about it, you're like, you know what? I really didn't like my job. This puts me in a place and an opportunity to find something that I like and enjoy to do. versus it being, oh my gosh, I lost my job. What am I going to do? Now, granted, when you lose a job, it's definitely a big aspect of how am I going to survive? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to do all these things? I get that. I understand it. But if you think through it, it's more so you're afraid of the process of finding a new job versus you actually getting a new job, if that makes sense. Like for me, sometimes it's like when I lost my job, I was like, me getting a new job isn't that that's not that bad. It's more so of me actually going through the process of trying to find a job, me writing out all these resumes, me doing all these applications, me having to go and do all these different interviews and preparing for interviews and things of that matter. So it's more so of the process and really pinpointing, okay, what is the uncertainty? Where is the issue? What fears are coming up for me? And addressing those straight on instead of trying to address the change all at one time. So that was a mouthful, y'all, but I hope that was helpful because a lot of times it's just a matter of us sitting and reflecting and being a little bit more curious, so that way we're able to decipher what the issues are. Okay, and then the last point before we go into affirmations is to practice gratitude, patience, and acceptance of change. Practice gratitude, patience, and acceptance of change. So, one, when it comes to practice gratitude, search for ways to be thankful for the changed experience. Search for ways for it to be a something that you can be grateful for. Find some solace in it. Be able to search and find, and again, be curious and find peace with it. Something that you can have some form of gratitude for when it comes with it. You may be in a state of mind where you may not be able to find that, and that's okay. That's all right. And it's okay to feel that way. But having that in your mind of like, okay, where is there something that I can actually be thankful for in this situation? Be patient. So don't rush to make decisions when you're going through this process of change. Now, some instances you may have to make decisions quickly, but be as patient as you can and not rush in making the decisions, so that way you can make decisions carefully and tactfully and with strategy. A lot of times what makes change difficult is that we rush and we make these very rash decisions and end up making things worse. And the change or the process of that change ends up being worse than what it would have been if we were a bit more patient. So be patient. Don't rush to make decisions. Yeah, sorry. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, so then making sure to be patient, don't rush and making decisions. And then also your goal ultimately is to get to acceptance. Your goal is to be able to get to acceptance of this particular situation, process, or change. And it may not, and when I say acceptance, because I think sometimes when people hear the word acceptance is that you're supposed to accept the things that people do or the situations that you're in that may have been foul. I'm not talking about acceptance of that. I'm talking about accepting reality and where you are. Because a lot of times it's hard for us to navigate change because we aren't able to get to the point to say to ourselves, this is where I am. This is the thing. This is reality, and this is what I have to deal with. Like I said in the beginning of earlier in the call, a lot of times we prolong change or we make change more difficult because we avoid the realities. We avoid and deny when we're in that process. And that's a part of the process of grieving, right? Because when you're losing something or when something's leaving you, or if there's, if it feels like it may not even be something's leaving you, it just may be perceived that way. You will go through that process of grieving. And that first step is denial, avoidance, for you to try to push it off. Procrastination is another thing when it comes to change that you may run into. feelings of hopelessness or worthlessness, which can then lead into depression. So making sure that at the end of the day, when it comes to embracing change, your end goal should be acceptance of whatever that change is. And it's not even condoning, situations or people and the things and the actions that they take. Has nothing to do with condoning of those things. It's more so of embracing and accepting the what is, the as is, the reality of where you are. Okay, so those are the 4 tips on embracing change. And acknowledge and accept your emotions. Be aware of your attachments. Be curious about the change. And practice gratitude, patience, and acceptance. So those are the 4. So we have 6 affirmations that I'm going to give to you guys. Feel free to write them down. Feel free to use them however you wish to. If you need to change the language on any of these things, feel free to change the language. If you want to record yourself saying them, writing them in your journal, putting them on Post-it notes, however you want to do it, feel free to do so. And then we'll end with one journal prompt that you can take away. But we'll start with number 1, the first affirmation. First affirmation is, this moment is an invitation to grow and evolve. This moment is an invitation to grow and evolve. This moment is an invitation to grow and evolve. So this is when you're in the moment where you're learning about your change, or when you are seeing things transpire and you're like, oh, this is going to be a change, like something's about to happen. You start to get those feelings. Understanding in that moment that this is just an invitation to grow and evolve. Okay. And if we're not growing and evolving, then we're regressing, right? Because if we're not learning, if we're not progressing, if we're not building upon our blocks, then what is happening? We're plateauing, we're stagnant, we're not moving, and that creates space to regress. So this moment is an invitation to grow and evolve. That's number 1. Number 2, I meet change with an open heart and a steady mind. I meet change with an open heart and a steady mind. I meet change with an open heart and a steady mind. So being open to change, embracing change, being optimistic when change comes our way, trying to find the silver lining quickly, I think is important when it comes to navigating change. Just really taking the time to have that open heart and to be centered with your mind, because a lot of times it's hard for us to embrace change when we're irrational, right? So we find ourselves in an irrational state. Being able to bring ourselves back to a more rational state, a more lucid thoughts, slowing our minds down so that way we can even digest what's happening, because a lot of times when change is happening, it's urgent, it's moving quickly. So making sure to bring our minds under subjection and to be steady when it comes to our minds. So that's number 2. You can do that with mindfulness, with meditation. You can do that with breath work. We talk about that all the time on this channel. But yeah, there's having a steady mind, lucid thoughts are important. That's number 2. Number 3, I can trust myself to navigate the unknown with grace. I can trust myself to navigate the unknown with grace. I can trust myself to navigate the unknown with grace. A lot of times when it comes to navigating change, we don't trust ourselves to make the right decision. And that's why we are afraid of change. This is why we are frustrated and fearful of change. Change also brings confusion sometimes. And in that confusion, you're not able to trust yourself in making the decision in the midst of that confusion. So this is why we reject change, or we get frustrated by it, or we get into denial or avoidance because we don't trust ourselves to make the right decisions. And the only way that we're going to be able to trust ourselves to make the right decisions is to make those decisions. And I know that's easier said than done. And I know that that sounds really nice right now, but that's really the only way that you're going to begin to continue to trust yourself, is to continue to intentionally make the decisions and to make the difficult decisions that you have a hard time making. The more that you do that, the more comfortable you become with it. And then when those things pop up, then it's not going to be, not going to say it's going to be that hard of a blow, because it still may be a blow, but at least you can trust yourself to make decisions in those moments. So that was number 3. I can trust myself to navigate the unknown with grace. Number 4, I release what no longer serves me to make space for the new. I release what no longer serves me to make space for the new. I release what no longer serves me to make space for the new. So understanding, a lot of times change comes because we need to make space for the next season in our life, the next things that are coming to us. And a lot of times those things are great, beautiful, wonderful things. But those things can't come if we have our space filled with clutter. If we have our minds filled with clutter, if we have our schedules filled with clutter, if we have so many things, if everything's filled up, there's no way that we can evolve and grow and adapt and to practice resilience. There's no way that we can do any of that if we are filled with things of the old, things that we've outgrown. And a lot of times we may know that we've outgrown certain situations and people and environments, but for whatever reason, we hold on to those things. I won't say for whatever reason, because a lot of times we just hold on to things that are familiar. And if something is familiar, our nervous system will automatically gravitate towards those things. So that's why we end up in the same relationships. It may be a different person, but the same thing happens every time because of the fact that it's familiar. It's what we're used to. So understanding that once you're able to release the things that do not serve you, release the things that are not in your best interests, release the things that cause more of a detriment to you than it causes an asset or brings an asset. The more you're able to release those things, the more space that you can make for those new, beautiful things that will come into your life. But those things won't come until you start to initiate the change of releasing some things. And a lot of times we know what those things are, right? It's not even a big mystery of the things that we need to release. Most of the time we know what we need to release. We know the environments we need to release. We know the people that we need to release. And it's not even about, I know when it comes to people, it's like, oh, I don't want to be mean, or I don't want to, it's not even about that. It's more so of pull back, you know? And it's not even about you having to tell them, oh, this is, I need to release you. It's not even about that. It's more so of like, hey, like I have some things that I'm trying to figure out for myself, and I just need to pull back and really work on myself for right now. And that's all they need to know. And release them. And it may not even be like a release 100%. It's just like, I'm good on this person for right now. Maybe down the line, maybe in a couple months or so, we can circle back, and this is, we can start rebuilding a friendship or start rebuilding a relationship or whatever. But at this point, this isn't serving me, and this is making things worse. So just understanding that there are some things that you may have in your life right now that you know for a fact that you need to release. There may be some people, there may be some things, maybe some situations, maybe some environments that you may need to release. And being honest with yourself about those things and going through the process of releasing those things. And again, releasing things also is a process. It may take some time, right? May have to go through a process of acceptance, may have to go through a process of processing your emotions in regards to releasing that thing. Absolutely. But it does need to happen. So take that with what you may, but releasing may be the type of change that you may need, and that may be something that you have to initiate. Okay, because even embracing change isn't always embracing what comes at you. It's also embracing what you need to start, or what you need to initiate, or what you need to do on your side. So keep that in mind when it comes to embracing change. Number 5, I have everything I need internally to thrive in this transition. I have everything I need internally to thrive in this transition. I have everything I need internally to thrive in this transition. So understanding all of the resilience, all of the optimism, all of the grit, all of the work that you would need to do in these types of situations to embrace change is already there. You just have to tap into it. You just have to embrace it and to use it, and to not shortchange yourself, and to not underestimate yourself and the changes that you're making or that's happening. So that was number 5. I have everything I need internally to thrive in this transition. And then the last one is, I am patient with my discomfort, knowing it's guiding me to transformation. I am patient with my discomfort, knowing it's guiding me to transformation. I am patient with my discomfort, knowing it's guiding me to my transformation. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable is the key to change. Like I said earlier, change is inevitable. It's going to happen. And if there's anything that's not going to change about life, is that change is going to happen, right? Like, we have to understand that change is going to be a part of this life. And the more that we're able to be comfortable with the discomfort of change, and the more that we're able to embrace it in that way, I don't like to say easy, but the easier it can be when it comes to change coming into your life, the easier and the faster you'll be able to process those things, to make you more resilient, to not create these cycles of sadness and depression. Because a lot of times people, when it comes to embracing change, they have a cycle where they have to go through a process of sadness, then burnout, then depression, then it's like a whole drawn out thing. And the more that you're able to embrace these things, and the more that you're able to have patience with the discomfort of change, the more it will accelerate the process of you embracing it, because a lot of times with us going through these processes, it may take months for us to embrace change. Whereas if we practice, if we are, more patient with it, if we embrace the discomfort and are okay with it, that process may be accelerated. And it may not to say it won't be as bad, but it wouldn't be as long, at least, especially for those who avoid or procrastinate or are in denial, because avoidance, denial, and procrastination are time killers, right? It's just a matter of if you're able to eliminate that, or at least minimize that as much as possible, it will accelerate the process of you going through and embracing change and moving on with your life. A lot of times we spend a lot of our time in these cycles of emotions, and instead of accepting those emotions initially and processing them, we end up in this instant replay that I talk about all the time of emotions, and that keeps us stagnant. That keeps us immobile. It paralyzes us a lot of times, paralyzes us physically, emotionally, spiritually. So the more that we're able to be patient and sit in the discomfort and be okay with the discomfort, the more we'll be able to embrace change, or the faster we'll be able to embrace change. So those were the 6 affirmations. Number 1 was, this moment is an invitation to grow and evolve. Number 2, I meet change with an open heart and a steady mind. Oh, my bad, y'all. Number 3 was I can trust myself to navigate the unknown with grace. Number 4, I release what no longer serves me to make space for the new. Number 5, I have everything I need internally to thrive in this transition. And number 6, I am patient with my discomfort, knowing it's guiding me to transformation. I hope these affirmations were helpful. I'll leave you with this one journal prompt that you can get you started in thinking about the changes that you are navigating. Some may be a little bit more heavy in journaling than others because there may be a lot to process or a lot that you're trying to process. But this is a great starting point, which is what part of this change feels the hardest, and how can I gently support myself through it? What part of this change feels the hardest, and how can I gently support myself through it? One last time, what part of this change feels the hardest, and how can I gently support myself through it? I think this is important because it goes back to the point I was making about awareness of your attachments and understanding, and then also like being curious about the change. Because once you really can pinpoint what's the hard part, like what is actually, okay, this change is happening. What is the actual hard part? What are the many hard parts that you're navigating? And processing those things, because a lot of times, like I said, we're trying to process one big crazy event or one big crazy change when it's really just nuances of it. So picking those out, journaling those out, and really thinking through those is what's most important to begin the process of embracing change. Again, I hope these were helpful. I hope that the affirmations, the points, as well as the journal prompt is helpful. Definitely let me know in the comments. And I hope this is at least a starting point. I know embracing change isn't an easy task, especially depending on what the change is. Some are easier than others, but at least this gives you a blueprint of where to start and where to start journaling, processing, reflecting, and figuring out what's most important to you in those moments. Also, too, if you have your core values, a lot of times embracing change may be difficult because of how they link to your core values. So if you have, a core value of family, and family is very important to you, but you and one of your family members get in an argument and get in a fight, that may also be a part of the reason why you're unable to process the change, because of the fact that it's linked to a core value and linked to something that you really value. And understanding that just because something is linked to a value, if it doesn't work out or if it's not working the way that you intended, doesn't mean that you still don't have those values. And I think that's sometimes what happens when it comes to change, is that if it goes against what we are really passionate about and love and really thrive our identity on, we instantly think that because this change happened, that's no longer me, right? That's not the case. So I wanted to make sure I pinpoint and pointed that out, because a lot of times that's where the denial and avoidance comes from, because whatever situation is happening or whatever change is happening is conflicting with our core values or what we are passionate and care about the most. So keep that in mind. Just because it goes against that doesn't mean that you aren't still that. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Next week is Thanksgiving. Next week, I'm taking a break. Okay? I have no classes. I have no homework. Well, a little bit. I have a little bit of homework, and the kids don't have any school. I won't have any work at the end of next week. So I'm gonna take a break. So next Monday, there won't be any live. We'll follow up with the following Monday with a live. And I think actually, if I look at the poll, I think the poll had, I forget what that next one was. Let's see. The topic for that was second to this one. Effective communication was second to this one. So not next Monday, but the Monday after, we're due effective communication. If there's any other topics that you guys want to talk about, definitely let me know in the comments. And you guys have a great rest of your night. It was great speaking with y'all. Y'all have a blessed night, and have a happy Thanksgiving, and I will talk to y'all after Thanksgiving. Bye. Thanks, Hiru. Have a good day.